Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of the NextGen Charity Conference 2011. We're in downtown New York City at the Tribeca Performing Arts Center, and with me now is Peter Thum. Peter, welcome.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Peter's the CEO and co-founder of Fonderie47, and also the founder of Ethos Water. And your message today is for the NextGen charity audience is about sort of hybrid organizations that you create.
Well, I'll be talking about that, but
Yeah.
ultimately the message that I'm talking about today is really about supporting radical new ideas.
And doing that in what way? Through the examples that
Well, from my perspective as an entrepreneur, but also suggesting to people that we need significantly more social angels to invest in new ideas that will create massive change.
Okay, and how should we attract those social angels? What do we need to do?
Well, they exist already.
How do we bring them to us?
Give them information and access to the people who are creating these new organizations.
Okay. How has this played out in your own experience? Why don't you share your stories?
Well, when I was starting the first company I started, Ethos Water, I went around and spoke with people who I expected to be receptive to what I was doing, who were foundation funders. I talked to on the not-for-profit side. I tried to start it as a not-for-profit and went to foundations and showed them the way that they could fund us, and they weren't interested.
Okay.
I think it would have required too much flexibility on their part that they maybe didn't have or didn't want to apply. And I talked to venture capitalists on the business side, and they said, you're too small. And so ultimately, the business became a business, and we ended up getting funded by angel investors. And I realized over time that angel investors are a very special breed of cat, and they are the people who provide most of the initial seed risk capital to start new ideas, whether those new ideas are not-for-profits or for-profits or a mixture of both.
Why don't you say a little bit about what you were feeling and why you persevered in the face of rejection from foundations in your original model?
Well, it's interesting. I think over time what I've realized is that when people who come up with these, let's call them radical solutions, when they come up with them, they do so because they've been confronted by some giant, seemingly impossible problem. And once you acknowledge that you have an idea that you think could work, I think people are driven to try to make that idea happen.
But in the case of the foundation examples, they weren't on board. They didn't see the value in the idea. When you said you started strictly as a nonprofit, went to foundations, and you were not getting the foundation support.
Right.
So I'm just trying to explore a little bit what kept you on track. What kept you going?
I think it was because the goal of trying to have an effect on people's awareness of the world water crisis here in the United States was the ultimate objective, and how to get there in terms of where we got the money or what structure we used was really irrelevant.
Okay, and I'm just encouraging people to see that you persevered in the face of a lot of rejection.
Oh, absolutely. I think I pitched 50 people on my own, and then ultimately we pitched probably something like 150 people before we had someone say yes and provide us a tiny amount of money.
Okay, and so what did that feel like? All that rejection?
Rejection never feels good, but you have to develop a thick skin, because when you have new ideas that people have never thought about before, I think that's the very nature of this kind of thing, that the people who do persevere are the ones who deserve the support. You can assume that you'll be rejected roundly when you have radical ideas that you want to get across.
Yeah. And you just need to believe in the strength of your conviction.
I think both that and also the fact that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And you have to take the feedback that you get and turn it into, spin the straw into gold every time you talk to somebody. You have to try to figure out what is it that this person is saying to me, and how can I benefit from this conversation, even if I'm not actually getting what I wanted when I first started talking.
Okay, excellent. We have just a minute or so. Why don't you explain to people the work of Fonderie47?
Sure. Between 3 and 4 years ago, my business partner and I both individually went to Africa and had experiences meeting little kids with guns, and we met then at the TED conference about two and a half years ago in California, and started talking about those experiences and decided that we wanted to try to do something substantial and lasting to change the assault rifle problem in Africa. And what we do now is we take AK-47s from Africa and we transform them into beautiful high-end jewelry, watches, and accessories, and then the sales of those pieces fund the destruction of more weapons back in Africa. And so far we've destroyed about more than 6,000 assault rifles in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
I know you have a very short time, so we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for being on, Peter.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Peter Thum is CEO and co-founder of Fonderie47 and founder of Ethos Water. You're listening to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of the NextGen Charity Conference 2011.